So if you might recall from the previous lecture, I in fact told you that you are supposed to write a paper of 500 to 600 words, in which you will, for which you will read 2 editorials on the similar topic. But those 2 editorials or those 2 opinion pieces should have opposing position about that particular topic. And you have to write your paper in such a manner that you have to describe which of those papers or which of those 2 editorials or which of those 2 opinion pieces have a stronger argument. Okay. And of course, there were more details about that, which you can listen from the previous lecture. Okay. I'm going to tell you that when you write your argument analysis paper, you will not simply state in your paper that article A or opinion piece A or editorial A has an argument which is stronger than the argument of opinion piece B. That is not how you are going to do it. Rather, in your argument analysis paper, you are going to write your own thesis statement. And then based upon that thesis statement, you will write your own arguments. Now the question is, if you are going to write your own thesis statement, and if you are going to write your own arguments, then what is the use of these 2 editorials? Basically, your thesis statement and your arguments are going to be based upon these 2 editorials in such a manner that you will be comparing the arguments given in both of the editorials. Okay, so your paper would have 3 parts. The first part will be the thesis statement. The second part would be the arguments. The third part would be the conclusion. Now, about thesis statement. So when you write a thesis statement, we have discussed the thesis statement or topic sentence when we discussed paragraph writing in the very beginning of the semester. I told you that you have an idea and an opinion about that idea. That is what we call a topic sentence. Sometimes we call it a thesis statement. But of course, now we have kind of, traveled a lot from that point to this point, and now we should be able to write a thesis statement which is a little more academic. Now these are a few things that you need to keep in mind when you write your thesis statement based upon 2 editorials or 2 opinion pieces which you are using for your argument analysis paper. You should write a thesis statement which is non-obvious. By that we mean we should not write a thesis statement which is too obvious and for which we do not need any argument to prove it. Although it looks like a little, less mature example, but still a thesis statement of the kind, Earth revolves around the sun. It is a fact. It is obvious. So that cannot be a thesis statement. Rather, thesis statement should be a sentence, a statement, which in fact demands or requires any arguments to be proven. And then your thesis statement should be well specified. That is, it should be specific to one particular topic. In your case, when you write your argument analysis paper, you will write a thesis statement on the top which of course is arguable, but at the same time, which is specific. In your case, it will be specific anyway. Why? Because I'm already asking you to choose two editorials on one and the same topic. So your thesis statement is almost automatically is going to be specific to those two editorials. But still, we need to keep that in mind, that a thesis statement should be specific to a particular topic. And then finally, it should include some implications as well. That means your thesis statement should have some effects beyond that topic too. Now, I need to give you some examples to explain all these 4 points further. Here is the example. Now, the experts of writing, they tell us that a thesis statement, if it is too obvious and if there is nothing to prove in that particular statement, then that kind of statement is called first story thesis statement. But if you have a thesis statement which requires some argumentation, it is called second story thesis statement. But if we have a thesis statement which not only requires some arguments to be proven, but also it has some deeper implications, then it is called a third story thesis statement. Let's read these 3 examples. Look at the first example. Online learning is becoming more prevalent and takes many different forms. Students, look at it. The idea in this particular statement is online learning, and the opinion about that is that online learning is becoming more prevalent. Students, do you find this statement to be obvious, or do you think it requires any arguments? Does it sound obvious or does it not? Yes or no answer?
Sir, it's obvious.
It's very much obvious. I mean, these days, I mean, last 5-6 months, probably we don't need any argument to prove this thing that online learning is becoming prevalent. It is prevalent. It is well known fact, actually. Okay, there is almost no question about it. All right. So this kind of thesis statement is called first story thesis statement, which does not require any argument to be proven. So when you write your thesis statement, try to figure out a thesis statement which requires some arguments to be proven. It should not be, self-obvious as this one is. Okay, so let's read the second story thesis statement. The second story thesis statement says over here, while most observers see it as a transformation of higher education, online learning is better thought of an extension of higher education, in that it reaches learners who are not disposed to participate in traditional campus-based education. So this second example is saying, it is giving a thesis statement which says that online learning is an extension of higher education because it is reaching to those people who cannot physically be present on campus. Now, this statement is a little arguable. Why? Because it says that online learning is an extension of higher education. Not all people believe it. Some people say that online learning is a replacement of higher education. You can totally replace higher education with online learning. So online learning can totally take the place of higher education. Now, I hope you understand what is the difference. So if you treat online learning as an extension of higher education, that means you will have the physical building of the university, and in addition to that, you will provide higher education online, so that majority of the students can come to the campus to study, but some who cannot come to the campus for studies, for them education can reach to their homes via online way. So that way online learning becomes an extension of higher education. But this is just one position. Okay, other people might say that, well, you don't need to have the physical body of the university at all, just replace it with online learning. Okay, so for this point, this thesis statement, we need arguments to support it, that online learning is an extension of higher education. So this kind of thesis statement is called second story thesis statement, because it is asking for some arguments. It is demanding some arguments to be established. All right. Now the third story thesis statement, that is the one which not only requires arguments, but in addition to that, which has some very serious consequences or results or implications for different people. Let's read the example. Online learning appears to be a promising way to better integrate higher education with other institutions in society, as online learners integrate their educational experiences with the other realms of their life, promoting free flow of ideas between the academy and the rest of the society. Now, all these three thesis statements are about online learning, but the third one is saying that with the help of online learning, we can integrate higher education with other institutions in the society. Because the individuals who live in a society, their lives are also integrated into various institutions of the society. And that way there could be a free flow of information between the society and the universities. Now, what does that mean? This particular thesis statement is saying that online learning can integrate higher education with other institutions. What are the other institutions? By other institutions, we mean the institutions of, for example, the institution of police, the institution of post office, the institution of judiciary, the Department of Health. These are all institutions in a society. Or the department which takes care of our identity, our national identity card and passport and all that. And then the banking system, that also is an institution in a society. So basically this thesis statement is proposing that higher education can integrate all of them together, so that when you as a student are enrolled in a university, you only need to log into your Moodle account or whatever account your university gives to you, and then through that Moodle account you can have access to other institutions of the society as well. So for example, if you need to pay a traffic ticket, you don't need to run to the traffic police office or to some other place. Rather, you need to log into your university account, and your university account will be integrated into or integrated with the database of the traffic police as well. So you will be able to see your ticket right over there, and you can pay it over there. If you have any medical issue and you want to access a doctor, again, you don't need to visit any doctor directly. Rather, once again, you will log into your Moodle and you will see your online doctor right over there. And you can log into it and make your appointment right through your university account. Similarly, if you need to get a passport for yourself, you don't need to rush to the passport office. Rather, you can log into your Moodle account. Once again, it is integrated into The passport office, you can apply for your passport right through your Moodle account, so on and so forth. That is what this thesis statement is saying. Students, I hope you understand how provocative this thesis statement is. It requires a lot of arguments to prove this point. Okay, but in addition to that, please try to understand the implications of this kind of thesis statement. What this thesis statement is implying is has huge consequences for students, for teachers, for society, for everybody. For example, number one, you as a student will totally be exposed to the university administration. You will lose the right to privacy. Your medical record, your police record, your record related to passports, ID, everything, all that information will be open to your professors and teachers and university administration. That is one implication or consequence of this integration of education system online learning with other institutions. Okay, then the whole infrastructure of the society will change. You don't need you don't need so much big staff in all these offices if you can do everything through your university portal. Probably you need to hire more people in the universities than anywhere else. So this is the second implication. Okay, so uh, so the point is that this thesis statement requires not only arguments but also points towards some implications of online learning. Okay, so this last third thesis statement is called third story thesis statement. Now, for your paper that you are going to write, I'm expecting that at least you should write a thesis statement which is second story thesis statement. Ideally, a third story, of course, is perfect if you can do that. But if you cannot, then at least second story thesis statement should be there. I'll give you more examples to explain it. Okay. So for your argument analysis paper, students, once again, you are first going to write your thesis statement on the top. And the thesis statement would be based upon both editorials or opinion pieces that you choose to work on. Preferably, you should have a second story thesis statement. Try to make it third story, but at least second story is required. Okay. There is one more example about first story, second story, third story thesis statements. You can read them on your own. It is on slide. When you listen to this lecture, you can just pause over here and read this example as well. Let me proceed to the argument part of your paper, which is the second part of your argument analysis paper. Okay. Now, in the argument part, students, you have to take care of the fact that whatever position you take in your thesis statement on the top of your paper, you need to, of course, prove that with the help of the arguments. So you have to strategically, very wisely, decide how many arguments do you need for a paper of 500 to 600 words. Maybe 3 to 4 arguments are enough. Why? Because you are going to write one paragraph for one argument. That will give an order to your paper. Thesis statement on the top, a little explanation about it, that is the first paragraph. Second paragraph, first argument. Third paragraph, second argument. Fourth paragraph, third argument. So if you write 3 arguments in 3 paragraphs, each paragraph of 100 to 150 words, that should look just fine. Now, this is the first thing I want to tell you about the argument part. One argument in one paragraph. Second thing, start each paragraph with a topic sentence.
Excuse me, sir.
We have discussed once earlier what a topic sentence is. Once again, a topic sentence is the main sentence in each paragraph. So what the paragraph is going to be about, you have to write that in the topic sentence, and then in rest of the paragraph, you just explain what you wrote in the topic sentence. While explaining that, you should give examples from the editorials. I'll pause here for a minute, students, and then get back to you. Okay, students. So let's continue. So I was on example from the editorial. So you need to cite examples or give examples from two editorials that you choose for your assignment. I will explain that further in the example of two editorials. And then finally, you write a conclusion for your argument analysis paper. In the conclusion, you restate your claim. By that, I mean restate your thesis statement. You restate your thesis statement, and also you summarize your arguments. Now notice, you wrote your arguments in 3 to 4 paragraphs. But in the conclusion, don't rewrite all those paragraphs. Just one line for each paragraph is enough. So if you wrote 3 paragraphs for 3 arguments, then in the conclusion, you can just write 3 sentences in total to sum up all those arguments. Okay. So in the conclusion part, you might have 4 sentences in total. The first sentence to restate the thesis statement, and the 3 sentences to summarize your arguments. Now, I need to explain that with reference to an example. In the example, I will do what exactly you have to do to write your own paper. I'll take 2 editorials on the topic of climate change, and then I'll explain to you how I will write an argument analysis paper using those 2 editorials. Okay, but you need to join me back for that. Okay, so I'm ending this session now, students. Please join me back to understand how to write argument analysis paper with reference to